Hello everyone, and welcome back to the special episode of Path Towards Remembrance, in which we'll be talking about the Ice Wall, Ascension timelines, and the 2026 predictions. So, if you haven't seen my latest video, I would highly encourage you to check it out because it will be explaining to you very key aspects of what I would like us to talk about today, which is the current ascension cycle and how it's going to look like in quite of a detail. So I'm going to share the screen with you, and I will show you a couple of previous slides from the last video that will help you get a concept of the ice wall theory and how the ice wall theory matches into the South Pole and the ascension passages. And then we are going to also see about more of the 2026 predictions and also something very interesting that I know some people asked me to talk about, but I never got into it, which is the Free Eye Atlas, the current Free Eye Atlas comet that is in our solar system. Like, what is it? Is it some kind of like symbol of ascension or like consciousness expansion or like ET contact? What is it exactly? What is this device? So, having said all of that, let's start with the presentation, and this will give us an idea what we can expect in the upcoming year, which I would say will be um, lighter than 2025, much lighter, and it will bring much more opportunities for what's about to come for us. So let's take a look first at this image where we already know from the previous video, but I'm just gonna read this as a reminder. We have Aurora Earth, which is a divine sphere that follows the sacred geometry and Christic ratio. It is a self-luminous primordial expression of Arion in external creation. And so Aurora Earth is like that spherical Earth that we live on. And then we have the net Earth, which is the segment of Aurora Earth, one of the 12 probability dominions of the larger planetary body of consciousness. In a way, net Earth is flat Earth. It is a piece of land of spherical aurora. So if we take a look at this image for a moment, this is the net Earth plane, 7 continents, 5 oceans, 13 billion population. And then we have other lands outside the holographic barrier that we refer to as the ice wall. And this one, let's say like the entirety of all the continents put together, the ones that we know and the ones that we don't know, they form Aurora Earth. So Aurora Earth is in a way the full incarnate self-identity of the Earth consciousness. So it's 12 probable selves. And then we have the net Earth, which is a single probability dominion, a part of the larger Aurora body structure. So that brings us to the question, is our Earth flat or round? And the answer is that it's actually both, because in a way, we can say that the landmass that we know, we can look at it in the image with the 7 continents that have been recognized. Well, it is flat, right? But at the same time, it is a piece of a larger planetary body that is known as Aurora. And these images here are not like very, very accurate, but they are just showing us the basics of how this structure actually looks like. Here we can view Aurora Earth in kind of like looking at it as if it was like a cake. And it's a cake that is round and has like 12 pieces. And the core center point that connects all the 12 pieces or 12 probabilities together is the Earth's core, also known as the know-me seed. So the know-me seed is on the level of Aurora Earth, and connecting to the know-me seed allows us to get the access codes to the 12 probabilities of Earth and to reconnect with our aspects there, because we have at least one aspect or more in each one of the 12 probabilities of Earth. There is a specialized network of additional passages and portals that link the various probability alternative dominions with each other. And this network is known as the Abyssa passages. So the Abyssa passages are just basically linking different parts of Aurora with each other. This is the best view of Aurora Earth, a certain visual that we can take where you can see that this is like a part of some big planet that we call Aurora. And then we have the net Earth. I'm just going to read this excerpt as a reminder here. Our contemporary net Earth system is separated from the rest of the probability dominions via the holographic ice wall barrier that creates a magnetic repulsion zone, preventing access to other probabilities of Earth. The ice wall itself does not exist. It is a holographic blockage that shuts down any connection to lands located beyond the wall in other probability systems of Earth. In the time of Atlantis, the holographic ice wall was inserted to disconnect the angelic human race of probability 12 from other systems of Aurora and from neighboring civilizations. So that means that our current net Earth system used to be connected with these other civilizations, but because the ice wall, which is like a frequency fence, was inserted, we basically don't have a way to get to these other civilizations to get in touch with them, because also the Abyssa passages have been closed. When we talk in context of Earth, and in here we talk mostly about not just the Aurora Earth, but also the net Earth, we have to realize something, and this is something that I briefly mentioned in the last video, but I didn't elaborate on it too much, is that Earth is actually like the life on planet Earth is not just taking place on the surface, but also underground and also above the surface, like in the atmospheric planes. So our structure of Earth is actually three-layered. So we have 3 billion people underground, 8 billion on the surface, and 2 billion in the Earth's atmosphere. So that actually adds up to 13 billion of human population, and we don't know all these civilizations. Some of the civilizations in the atmospheric planes are actually much more advanced than we are. So, as I mentioned previously, these layers of net Earth's life field are present among all probability dominions of Aurora Earth, providing variety within planetary forms of life. So these are the three layers of net Earth, and we are going to take a brief look at each one of them. So we have a certain network of passages, obviously, that are connecting us to these different layers of Earth's body, we can say. And what happens is that usually, like if we go underground, then we can also access the inner Earth realm, which is like this layer in between. Like if we wanted to see Aurora here, and we have this small, almost like it seems like a bit of a hollow layer inside of the Earth's core, then this is the inner Earth. And inner Earth is kind of like this transitional zone that connects all the 12 probability dominions into one, and it allows for safe passage into each one of them. So what we used to do back in ancient days is to like actually travel down to inner Earth and then just jump between different probabilities back and forth. So we have the subterranean layer of Earth, which is the underground in the crust, mantle, and geothermal zones. And there's a lot of like there's different specific forms of life there. Also, like the area known as the cave cities is among the subterranean layers. And this is where we also have the human civilization as well as different races. The underground has been very much dominated by the reptilian collective for a long time, but now this is changing because of the Aurora platform called the Cave Cities that is reawakening and in a way also becoming one of the Ascension hubs on our planet Earth. Then we have the surface layer that we already know, and in context of net Earth, we have the 7 continents and 5 oceans and the 8 billion population out there. And this is basically the realm of the elemental kingdom. So the elemental kingdom is basically like, let's say like we have the atomic blueprint in the surface of underneath the surface of Earth. And then we have let's say, the elemental manifestation of it in on the surface layer, and then let's say like the mental bodies in the atmospheric layer. So in a way, like that three-dimensional set structure is quite fixed when it comes to the probability dominions of Earth, with the underground, or let's say like the subterranean layer being like the atomic base. Then the surface is like the elemental base, and then the, let's say, mental vapor base is the atmospheric planes. So these three different layers of Earth are very much interconnected with each other. And now I'm telling you about this because at some point when we talk about the ascension cycle, depending on different evacuation scenarios, we will be either traveling to the atmosphere or to the underground. So that very much depends. Anyway, before we get to that, I think this is something that I'm also sharing from the previous video. The ice wall, military, and the gates to Asgard. I'm just gonna read this once again as a reminder. The ice wall holographic barrier is intended to be analyzed only in theoretical terms due to strict surveillance of the Arctic by the inner government of Net Earth. Attempts of out-of-the-body experience, astral projection, or remote viewing are immediately detected, and a conscious identity is typically trapped in the review holographic planes to prevent any official knowledge from leaking into the collective consciousness. Free transit between the probability dominions has been fully shut down due to the Abyssa portal system being closed after the fall of Atlantis. Additionally, the gates to Asgard are directly guarded by the United Nations agenda. The gates to Asgard are the physical direct passages from the South Pole to the other probability dominions. Satellites that circulate around the net Earth field only register the reality inside the ice wall. A physical picture of Aurora Earth as a full planetary body has never been taken, so as I mentioned in the previous video, NASA has never shared like an actual image of how our planet looks like as a bigger land of, like with the 12 probability dominions and much more than the 7 continents that have been discovered here. So the current South Pole conspiracy, because as I said in the previous video, South Pole will be like a great area of interest in the upcoming years. Currently, South Pole is a fully militarized zone with no entry permission. Thus, getting to the South Pole from the outside is currently impossible. I mean, those people that claim to have discovered the South Pole, like, they took a journey and they managed to walk all the way through to the South Pole peak. Well, they pretty much went like all the way around and then they came back, but they were just like walking around it instead of like to the inside of the South Pole, if that makes sense. So they were always kind of like traveling around the South Pole instead of like going right to the center. And that's because there's a lot of things that don't want to be discovered there. I've also had clients that I used to do some integration work with them on the South Pole, and they just used to see like, okay, so there's some layer of ice, and then it's green and it's warm and it's much different. And so currently all of this is covered by certain secret organizations on Earth so that we don't find out what South Pole is about, because this is the key to, let's say, reclaiming our full consciousness, why we are here, what is our mission on this planet, and also they are preventing us from reconnecting with the ancient Polarian civilization, which is still very much alive and it exists on the South Pole. So the other way to get to the South Pole is via the Abyssa passages that connect various net Earth locations with Antarctica. So let's say, I think I mentioned that on the previous video, well, the countries that are very close to the South Pole, like Chile, Argentina, we can even say like New Zealand, Australia, Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion Islands, South Africa, these have like many Abyssa passages that are allowing us to just go through that time portal, and instead of having to like take a cruise all the way down to the South Pole, we can just time travel very quickly to the South Pole, and from there be able to go through a bigger portal that allows us to reach other probability dominions of Earth and finally break beyond the ice wall. So there's obviously certain holders of these Abyssa passage codes, and such individuals are very often referred to as the ancient time travelers, and they play a very important role in the current ascension cycle. Their role is very, very crucial. So let's take a look at how this eternal host process is taking place. In context of reclamation of Aurora, I'm going to read these excerpts to you and explain a little bit. And then we'll take a look at the other aspects of 2026, which is about the timelines, ascension cycles, as well as the Free Eye Atlas. Aurora Earth and the entirety of its probable alternative self-structure received its call of the host and responded with the Song of Eternal Victory on May of 2024, fully awakening its potential as a noble Nomia pillar of the host and upgrading its mission toward full reunion with the primordial blueprint of Arion. So that means that every single probability dominion of Aurora has received the call of the host. So it is under the Eternal Protectorate now, and it's progressively ascending towards its eternal self-encryption. Just like on this image here, we have the Urea Earth and, let's say, Aurora Earth that is ascending into its most perfected version known as Urea Earth. Aurora Earth receives its eternal host flows of Urea transmissions via the transplaneal planetary core blending, with eternal Urea Earth through the Rada-Dura-Spark interface, which allows for transspatial synchronization of planetary time-wave templates towards Aurora's ascension to the eternal creation Urada cycles. Cyclical frequency transmissions from the eternal Urada fields provide every segment of Aurora with its primordial blueprint, which gives potential for accelerated multidimensional realignment and transition into the eternal creation domain. So right now we receive the flows of Urea because they don't only provide the host, but host is the path towards the eternal self version of the planet, and also that takes place on a personal level. These planetary circumstances indicate that every probability dominion of Earth has received an eternal host offer, allowing it to reconnect with the eternal field of the eternal Urea Earth, to retrieve its primordial blueprint and evacuate from the external creation fields, avoiding eventual fall into the Gonfall Earth system of Abaddon. Every probability system of Earth that chooses to accept the eternal host treaties gains the opportunity to reconnect with the Rada-Dura-Spark set and activate its local Urea body template. The bioenergetic procedures that each probability dominion of Aurora Earth must fulfill in order to transition into Urea Earth in eternal creation allow not only for transformation of the land itself, so like actually there could be a continent that can be moved to Urea Earth, like a physical atomic transfiguration, not just of individual life forms, but like the entire piece of land. Maybe a continent, maybe just a country, maybe just some ancient historical land near a certain stargate. All of it is possible. But it also ensured that every form of conscious life accepting the eternal host offer enters under the eternal protectorate field of Useon, enabling individual transition through the eternal Stargate network. So the host provides the opportunity for ascension not just to individuals, but also to actual segments of the planetary body that would have enough of the flows of Urea to be able to make this transmission. Since 9 out of 12 probability dominions of Aurora are currently fully hijacked under the control of Black Dragon Legion or the White Dragon Brotherhood, the Eternal Host represents a pathway of final salvage for the affected probability dominions of Aurora. While every probability dominion has its own free will choice to accept the host treaties or not, it is probability 12, the Net Earth, that as the central core probability dominion has the greatest influence to integrate the other probability systems. So it is actually our probability, the net Earth domain, that since it activated its host field, all the other probabilities follow. Due to the parallel Earth phantom fall, all the alternate systems suffered collapse, and the fallen angelic races used this circumstance to completely take over the life field there, using the Black Mirror technology to create the evil twin effect, which is the infiltration of certain probable self via the alternative self counterpart. So let's just say that what's been happening, the main reason why these probability dominions got hijacked to begin with is because of it's because of the fact that we did have the interference from the antiparticle parallel Earth that has been severely interfering with the evolutionary process of many probability dominions of our particle Earth. So this toxic interaction is called the evil twin effect, and it's been the main reason behind why we have so many distortions in this dominion and in many others. Co-creation with the eternal flows of Urea on net Earth not only opens the eternal gates and assists with the mass planetary grid healing, but also supports the process of ice wall holographic barrier dissolution. It opens the dormant Abyssa passages, reconnecting all probability identities of Earth into the Wheel of Fortunes. Reconnection with other probable self-identities, in very simple terms, means reconnection with aspects of our consciousness beyond the ice wall, enabling multidimensional realignment and the eternal self-integration. And now, this is like the information that I've been sharing on my SoulScension classes with my students. And I would like us to go a little bit deeper into a couple of things that I wanted to share when it comes to 2026. So, first of all, what I've experienced ever since the December solstice, and that's kind of been going on through the entirety of the Christmas period, were very intense rituals that were performed by certain race lines over here in order to actually introduce a certain 3D staged conflict. But in reality, it's kind of like an intention to bring more of that fallen Abaddon timeline while these guys still can do that. Because the moment the Ascension cycle starts, the dark side will not be able to do anything to disturb that Ascension cycle. So let's say they have like less than 2 years to still try to attempt to do something. So that's why we have like a possible evacuation scenario. So from the 21st, which is the December solstice, to the 26th, which is the second day of Christmas, Christmas rituals performed by the Sahala Magistracy Councils to introduce the Abaddon Yin-Yang overlay to the net Earth fields that links to the Abaddon Gonfall Earth collective drama fields. On 3D Arena, this is expected to manifest as the great religious war between the Cross and the Crescent Moon, which is basically like the war between Christians and Muslims. We can see what's happening in Europe these days, so I guess that would not be very surprising if such conflict took place. But the problem is, and it's not really directed at anyone, but it's just like stating a certain fact here that the cross is more connected to the Templars and all of that, while the Crescent Moon, the egregore of the Crescent Moon believers, is connected to the Abaddon Gonfall system. So basically, initiating that war on like a planetary scale is bringing a lot of that Gonfall energy into our planet. So the flows of Urea, especially the Rainbow Rescue Arc of Urea, is intended to stop that drama from happening. And talking about the dramas, we had the timeline split that actually started in November of 2023, where the spirals crossed. And that process, the dueling spirals, which is the Christic and the Metatronic spiral facing each other, they began their split in May of 2025 and will progressively create two pathways for humanity, the Christic pathway of the host and the Abaddon pathway of the fall. throughout the next 10 years until 2035 when the full split occurs. So we'll be seeing more and more of that polarity in the media. I mean, we've have seen a lot of it already, but it's gonna be more and more and more contradictions because some of us will be just following the Christic timeline, some of us will be following the Metatronic timeline, and this split will fully happen on a physical level by 2035. So it's like a 10-year cycle. And a couple of additional information here on the timeline split. In the beginning of 2025, the three Abaddon Gonfall timelines were inserted into Metatronic spiral in order to accelerate its speed. So in a way, the Metatronic spiral has been made worse because of these three insertions. And that's been made possible because of the 3i Atlas coming into our solar system. But we'll talk about it in a moment in the final slides. At the same time, the rescue arc of Urea accelerates the Christic spiral and clears the fallen timelines of Abaddon. So thanks to the fact we have the rescue arc of Urea, which you can listen to more information about the rescue arc of Urea and the timeline split in my previous videos, but what the rescue arc of Urea does is that in a way it's kind of holding Earth in its energetic arms of the host as it is transitioning out of the Milky Way. So the Earth is basically rescuing as much of its planetary body as it can. It's going through the bright flower gardens and transitioning to the eternal creation Ura Lake Conservatory. And the rescue arc of Urea is holding the planet safe and steady while this transition is taking place until 2035. Because after that period, the ascension will still be possible through the host for the next 800 years, but the planet itself, it will progressively start collapsing. So let's just say the ascension cycle doesn't fully kick in 2027 and 2028. So there's two so-called evacuation scenarios that I would like us to talk about. And it's not like it's gonna happen, but it's not like it's not gonna happen either. So in here, I'm not meant to spread any kind of fear, but it's just good to be aware of these things so that we know what to prepare for in case anything was about to happen. So in the event where black dragons attack from above, in 3D context, this means spaceship attack, comets, meteors, alien invasion, we would go downwards as a part of evacuation so that we can navigate to an alternative probability dominion. From there, you use the ascension portals to the eternal Urada cycles. So that means that if we had some kind of attack like a comet, like Atlas, or a certain alien invasion, spaceship attacks, all sorts of things that you can see in the science fiction movies, really, or catastrophe movies, well, the atmosphere is occupied. So we're going downwards through the Abyssa passages to the South Pole and from there to other probability dominion of Earth, and then we transition out. I'll show you the details in a moment. And then there is the second scenario. In the event where black dragons attack from below, in 3D context, this means earthquakes, volcano eruptions, tsunami, etc. We would go upwards as a part of evacuation so that we can navigate to one of the Aurora platforms in Earth's atmosphere for transition to the eternal Urada cycles. So we have two possible pathways here. We either have the host ascension, SoulScension pathway, which is the 2027-2028 ascension cycle, and then we have the evacuation scenario. The host scenario takes place either through the physical transfiguration that takes place through the bright flower gardens, Ura Lake Conservatory, eternal stargates directly to Urea Earth, a pathway that I've already talked about in previous videos, or through the soul transition process, through the Aurora Platforms Nomi seat to the 5-density transposition platforms Ura Lake Gates and to the Ura Lake Conservatory Eternal Domain. So this is in case you don't make it with your physical body, you can do it with just your soul quantum, no problem. You just need to have your Urea body activated. And then we have the evacuation scenario expected to, okay, so if some evacuation scenario doesn't take place by 2045, by the time the spirals split, then everything's gonna be all right. So we have like 10 more years to see if we need to take the evacuation scenario or if the ascension cycle will take place successfully. So we have the air scenario. In this case, we have the attacks from the sky. And that's when we use the Abyssa passages on the South Pole to other probability dominions of Aurora Earth. Then the Euleion chamber passage to the Urada central point of all dominions, which is the Ascension passage to the eternal Urada cycles. So it's like you go from some location on Earth to the South Pole through the Abyssa passages, then from Antarctica to another probability dominion. You travel to the center, and you either like travel to the center and just go through the Ascension passage, or you go to other probability dominion that has some eternal stargates open that you can pass through. So this is just a scenario in case like our probability was in serious danger of destruction. And then we have the Earth scenario, which is the physical evacuation through Aurora Platforms via special access passages on the surface of Earth and from Aurora Platforms to density transposition platforms, Urale gates, for evacuation to Urale Conservatory Eternal Domain. So as you can see, like in certain extreme scenarios, we may need to take the different Stargate options. So that's why it's good to kind of be prepared with your body to make a Stargate passage in case that was needed, because that's needed in case of evacuation. And in the final slides, I just want us to talk about the Free Eye Atlas, because I know it's been of a great interest, and I know that many of you are curious what I also think about it. So here's my perspective. Free Eye Atlas is an interstellar comet discovered July of 2025 that came from outside of the solar system. So that's why this comet is quite profound. This comet is in reality an advanced trans-time device brought from the phantom timeline of Atlantis 3 million years ago to link the contemporary society of Earth with the technocratic structure of Atlantis, introducing the AI-based global system. I mean, let's notice that ever since that comet arrived, there's been so many different conversations about AI and this kind of stuff. So that just makes us think like, okay, so what is this about? And it's not necessarily connected to Ascension. From my perspective, this comet is not really about Ascension. Free Eye Atlas is a semi-etheric carbon and silicon. So thus it is a multidimensional timeline device. This comet, its main objective is to take more of Earth's quantum to the Metatronic timeline of Phantom Atlantis. It interacts with some of the planetary megalithic structures, triggering their activation as a part of the alien invasion agenda. So, like, the moment that comet arrived, it was synchronized with a lot of activations I've seen in the Mayan pyramids. The device was activated in Stonehenge, everything to kind of like align it with the arrival of that comet, because that comet is interacting with these devices. This comet is actually in a way like a multidimensional trans-time satellite. Free Eye Atlas connects to King Atlas, one of the Illuminati Draconian Sumerian Atlantean kings. King Atlas wanted to conquer the whole world and put it under the dominance of technocratic Atlantis. So that's why the comet was named after him. NASA is in contact with certain FA races associated with the fallen Atlantean conspiracy agenda. The Net Earth's inner government is a direct descendant of the fallen Atlantean bloodlines associated with King Atlas. Free Eye Atlas broadcasts the DNA possession hypervirus into the personal DNA template. So it's not doing any good. It's not good to like connect to this comet or take energies from it. It's connecting us to a very twisted timeline, which kind of ends with apocalypse. So it's not a good one. It is the last mega weapon against humanity before the 2027-2028 Ascension cycle. So there's nothing to be really too excited about this comet. It's not bringing us any awakening or anything very profound. I would say it's a distraction. Let's instead just enjoy the beautiful auroras that are all over the planet, and we're not even talking so much about these. Let's enjoy the flows of urea that are more and more visible in the sky. Let's enjoy the rainbows. All of these are beautiful, but not the Free Eye Atlas. So this is everything that I wanted to share for this video. I hope that it gave you a little bit of more perspectives. And if you would like to prepare more for the upcoming Ascension cycle, get some more of the effective tools and practical techniques in order to make sure that you're going to go in full SoulScension, I recommend you to check out my SoulScension Conscious Evolution Masterclass, which is now available as a product on my website. SoulScension is a self-healing journey for those who feel the quiet call to go deeper, to release the old patterns, reconnect with missing parts of the soul, and gently anchor their original eternal blueprint into everyday life. So having said that, this is everything that I wanted to share in today's video. If you haven't seen the previous video, I highly recommend you to check it out to get more of the 2026 updates as well as more information on the ice wall theory. But for now, thank you so much for listening, and hopefully I will be recording a little bit of more videos from now on. If you still guys have like any kind of questions that you would like to ask further on the comet or anything like that, I will be happy to answer. So I wish you a beautiful rest of your day or your evening, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.